What kind of creature can survive for years without eating and not die? Is it starving or simply built differently? And what if the answer isn't about hunger at all, but a hidden survival strategy from the deepest, darkest parts of our planet? Deep beneath the ocean's surface, where sunlight disappears and pressure could crush steel, lives a creature that seems to break the rules of life itself. It looks like a cross between a giant pill bug and an armored tank, moving slowly across a silent, food-scarce world. But here's the paradox. In captivity, one of these creatures stopped eating for over 5 years and kept living. No signs of disease, no visible injury, just silence and survival. Scientists were left stunned. How can a living organism defy one of the most basic biological needs, food? Is this extreme starvation or something far more complex hidden in its biology? To answer that, we have to dive into a world where evolution rewards patience, and survival means mastering the art of waiting. In 2007, a creature from the deep sea was pulled from darkness nearly a mile below the surface and brought into the bright, controlled world of the Toba Aquarium in Japan. It didn't look like anything most visitors had ever seen. Flattened body, segmented armor, legs tucked beneath like a living tank. Staff labeled it simply Specimen Number 1. At the time, it was just a rare exhibit. No one expected it to become a scientific mystery. At first, everything seemed normal. It moved slowly along the tank floor, exploring its new environment with quiet, deliberate motions. When feeding time came, it accepted pieces of fish, nibbling in a way that matched its sluggish nature. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. Then, on January 2nd, 2009, something changed. During a routine feeding, Specimen Number 1 approached its food, touched it briefly, and walked away. That alone wasn't shocking. Animals skip meals. But the next feeding came and it refused again, then the next, and the next. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The caretakers tried everything. They offered different types of fish. They adjusted the water temperature to mimic seasonal shifts. They placed food directly in front of its mouth, even gently guiding its head toward it. Each time the same result, indifference. Sometimes it would push the food aside, almost casually, like brushing away dust. Then came the strangest behavior of all. It began to pretend. Specimen. Number 1 would move its mouth parts and front legs around the food as if eating, creating the illusion of feeding. But it never actually consumed anything. It was as if the act itself had become a hollow routine, motion without purpose. By the end of 2009, it had not eaten once, and yet it was still alive. Year after year, the pattern continued. 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, more than 1,800 days without food. In most animals, even a fraction of that time would lead to organ failure, collapse, death. But Specimen Number 1 endured, moving slowly, existing in a state that seemed to defy basic biology. Its story spread. Visitors came not to see it eat, but to watch it refuse. Then, on February 14th, 2014, the mystery reached its end. A caretaker approached the tank with food, just like always, but this time, Specimen Number 1 didn't respond at all. When examined, it was gone. No signs of disease, no visible damage, just a body that had quietly stopped. After 1,868 days without eating, the creature had finally died. But in many ways, the real question had only just begun. In the natural world, food is not optional. It's the foundation of life. Every cell, every movement, every heartbeat depends on a steady flow of energy. Remove that, and the clock starts ticking. In humans, weeks without food can be fatal. In most animals, even less. So how does something survive not just months, but years? Specimen. Number 1 didn't just skip meals, it exited the entire system. By the end of its first year without eating, it should have shown clear signs of decline. Muscle loss, slower movement, organ failure. But none of that happened. It continued to move along the tank floor, slow but steady, like a machine running on a hidden reserve no one could see. Think of metabolism like a burning flame. In most animals, that flame burns fast and bright, constantly demanding fuel. But in this creature, The flame was more like a faint glow, barely flickering, consuming almost nothing. Its body wasn't racing to survive, it was waiting. Scientists began to consider a possibility that sounded almost extreme. What if this wasn't starvation, but strategy? Deep-sea environments are defined by scarcity. Food doesn't come regularly. It arrives unpredictably, drifting down from above like rare snowfall. In such a world, survival doesn't favor speed or strength. It favors efficiency, the ability to endure long, silent gaps between meals. And specimen number 1 may have been doing exactly that, stretching a single feeding period across years. There's evidence that giant isopods can consume large amounts of food at once, storing energy internally like a biological battery. Once full, their metabolism slows to a crawl, conserving every possible unit of energy. Organs reduce activity, movement becomes minimal. Even digestion may pause for extended periods. It's less like living day to day and more like entering a long, controlled hibernation without ever fully shutting down. But even with these adaptations, 5 years is extreme. Some researchers speculated that the aquarium environment itself may have triggered this response, altering its internal rhythms in ways we still don't fully understand. Others wondered if it had simply reached a biological limit, slowly shutting down over time. What makes this case so powerful isn't just the duration, it's the contradiction. A living organism functioning without food for longer than science thought possible. It forces a question that challenges everything we assume about survival. What if, in the deepest parts of our planet, life doesn't follow the rules we're used to, but rewrites them entirely? To understand how something can survive years without food, you first have to understand what it is. The giant isopod looks like it crawled straight out of a prehistoric nightmare. Its body is wide and flattened, divided into rigid segments that overlap like armor plates. Underneath, multiple legs move in a slow, synchronized rhythm, giving it a mechanical, almost robotic motion. If you've ever seen a pill bug roll into a ball in your backyard, imagine that, but scaled up to the size of a small house cat. Despite its alien appearance, the giant isopod isn't some evolutionary mistake. It belongs to an ancient group called arthropods, the same massive family that includes crabs, shrimp, spiders, and even insects. In fact, its closest relatives on land are those tiny gray bugs that hide under rocks. The difference is, while those stayed small and adapted to soil, the giant isopod followed a very different path. Straight into the deep ocean. And down there, everything changes. The deep sea is one of the most extreme environments on Earth. There's no sunlight, temperatures hover just above freezing, and the pressure is so intense it could crush most surface animals instantly. It's a place where energy is scarce and life has to operate on a completely different set of rules. The giant isopod is built perfectly for this world. Its hard exoskeleton acts like a pressure-resistant shell, protecting it from both the environment and potential predators. When threatened, it can curl inward, shielding its softer underside, like a living armored capsule. Its large reflective eyes are adapted to detect faint light, though in complete darkness, it relies more on touch and chemical signals to navigate. But what stands out most isn't its armor, it's its lifestyle. This is not a hunter chasing prey through the depths, it's a scavenger. It waits. Food in the deep ocean is unpredictable, a dead fish, a squid, even a whale carcass drifting down from the surface. These rare events become massive feeding opportunities. When that happens, giant isopods don't eat politely, they gorge, consuming as much as possible in a single sitting, because they don't know when the next meal will come. Everything about this creature is tuned for patience. It doesn't rush, it doesn't waste energy. It survives by doing less and lasting longer. And once you understand that, its ability to go years without food stops looking impossible and starts looking like evolution, taken to its extreme. In the deep sea, survival isn't about being fast, strong, or intelligent. It's about enduring the long silence between opportunities. And the giant isopod has mastered that silence better than almost anything else. Its strategy begins with one simple rule: never waste energy. On the ocean floor, food doesn't appear on a schedule. There are no daily hunts, no predictable feeding times. Instead, nourishment arrives randomly, like debris falling from a distant sky. A dead fish might drift down once in weeks, a whale carcass once in years. In between, there is nothing. So instead of chasing food, the giant isopod does the opposite. It slows everything down. Its movements are deliberate and minimal, like a machine running in low power mode. Muscles engage only when necessary. It doesn't roam endlessly or search aggressively. It waits, conserving energy the way a submarine conserves oxygen. Carefully, precisely, without urgency. But the real secret reveals itself when food finally appears. When a carcass reaches the seafloor, the isopod switches from restraint to excess. It feeds intensely, consuming large amounts in a short time. Its body expands, storing nutrients as fat reserves, like filling a fuel tank to the absolute maximum. This isn't overeating, it's preparation. Because once the meal is over, the waiting begins again. Inside its body, metabolism slows dramatically. Think of it like dimming the lights in an entire building to save power. Digestive processes stretch over long periods. Energy use drops to a near minimum. Even internal systems that would normally run constantly begin to idle. This creates a biological paradox. Instead of living continuously at full capacity, the isopod shifts between brief moments of activity and long stretches of near stillness. It doesn't need constant input because it's built to stretch time itself. There's also a physical advantage. Its armored body protects it from most threats, meaning it doesn't need to flee or fight often. Without the pressure of constant danger, it can afford to remain slow and passive. Survival, in this case, isn't about reaction, it's about stability. And this is where everything connects back to specimen number 1. What looked like starvation may have been an extreme version of this natural cycle, a system pushed to its limits in an artificial environment. Not a failure to eat, but a continuation of a survival program written over millions of years. In a world where speed often wins, the giant isopod proves something different. Sometimes the best way to survive is to do almost nothing at all. Even after years of observation, controlled conditions, and careful study, one question still lingers. Why did specimen number 1 stop eating? At first glance, it seems like a simple case of starvation, but the details don't fit. There were no signs of disease, no visible damage, no clear physiological breakdown, at least not in the way scientists would expect. It didn't waste away rapidly. It didn't collapse under the typical timeline of energy depletion. Instead, it endured. This forces researchers to consider a more complex possibility. What if the problem wasn't the lack of food, but the environment itself? In the deep ocean, life operates under extreme stability. Temperature barely changes, light is non-existent. Food arrives unpredictably, but naturally. Every biological process in a giant isopod is tuned to that rhythm. Now imagine removing that creature from its world and placing it inside a glass tank. Constant lighting, regular human activity, artificial feeding schedules. To us, it seems controlled. To the isopod, it may have been completely unnatural. Some scientists suggest that this environmental mismatch could have disrupted its internal cues, signals that regulate hunger, digestion, and energy use. Without the right triggers, its body may not have recognized the need to eat at all. Like a clock, without a reference point, its biological timing could have drifted. There's also the possibility of extreme metabolic suppression. In certain species, the body can enter a state where energy consumption drops so low that normal biological expectations no longer apply. Not quite hibernation, not quite dormancy, but something in between. A slow-motion existence where time, in a biological sense, stretches. Specimen. Number 1 may have been operating in that state for years, and yet even that doesn't fully explain it. Because at some point, the system failed. The question is whether it failed suddenly, or if it had been slowly approaching its limit all along. What makes this case so important isn't just the mystery itself, but what it reveals. It shows that our understanding of life, of metabolism, survival, and biological limits is still incomplete, especially when it comes to extreme environments like the deep sea. Creatures like the giant isopod remind us that evolution doesn't follow a single path. It experiments, it adapts, it pushes boundaries in ways that can seem almost impossible from our perspective. And sometimes it creates life forms that don't just survive harsh conditions. They redefine what survival even means. In the silent depths of the ocean, where time stretches and survival follows rules we barely understand, the giant isopod teaches a quiet but powerful truth. Not all life fights to survive in the ways we expect. Some endure by slowing down, by conserving, by trusting a rhythm far older than urgency. Specimen. Number 1 didn't just challenge science, it challenged our assumptions about control, need, and even existence itself. Maybe survival isn't always about constant action, but about knowing when to wait, when to hold on, and when to surrender to a design greater than our understanding. And in that stillness, there is something almost spiritual. A reminder that life, in all its forms, carries mysteries that reach beyond logic. So what do you think? Was this creature simply surviving? Or following something deeper we don't yet understand? Could its silence be a form of adaptation or something closer to instinct guided by nature itself? If this journey into the unknown made you think differently, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to explore more mysteries hidden beneath the surface.